Hey everybody, it's Brock and we got a brand new episode of All About. We're at month 7 on the new reef tank and we got a lot of exciting things to talk about. We're going to be getting into the cleaning that has gone on for the last 3 months to bounce the tank back. We'll check out some corals that a very generous customer I used to help out with back in my fish store days gave me to bring some life back to the tank, as well as new critters that are out and about as the tank comes together again. So let's dive in. And if it's not one thing, it's another. I took a bunch of videos of the tank as algae began to grow, as it recycled, and me cleaning it. Well, sadly that SD card that had all the footage got corrupted, and so I lost February and March's lot of videos. So you still get to see a good bit of the nasty that occurred in the tank, but it was 10 times worse than what it looks like now in April. Luckily, still had some footage from my phone, so I'll include those shots, but what you don't get to enjoy is me siphoning out 6-inch long strands of hair algae growing all over the walls, the rocks of the tank. It was a mess. So let's take it back to the day I got home from the crash and what it looked like. In the first video, you can see it is so cloudy. This was right after removing the fish, getting the filters back on, moving some water, and turning the lights on. Literally every coral is bleached out, minus a tiny bit of flesh on some that just eventually dies off. Now we're a couple days later of the filters running and the lights on, definitely getting over the cloudiness of the tank being so stagnant for many days. The filters are doing what they are intended to do. Now, my thoughts going into this were that I'm just going to let this thing ride. I'm not going to drain it and start completely over. I'm going to leave the existing filters in. I'm not doing an immediate water change. We're going to sit and watch it bounce back on its own. My thinking was that I believe even though the tank was off for multiple days, a majority of that beneficial bacteria is just in a shock state and would come back over the next month. Do I know that for sure? Of course not. But in my mind, I preferred keeping the existing water, sand, and rocks and filters in hopes that the tank would bounce back quicker and more reliably than if I started completely fresh. In the video, you can see the remaining flesh just getting taken out by brown jelly disease. Now, we're at a week later, and when I tell you I was determined not to touch the tank, I didn't even wipe the glass off. Just let it ride. And immediately we can see the hair algae, detritus, and red cyanobacteria beginning to take over on the rocks, sand, and glass. Now, I didn't test my water each week to see if I had officially recycled, but even though I didn't, those levels had to have been extremely high. Two weeks later from the crash, and I don't know how they did it, but the hermit crabs were out and about, so I had about 6 blue legs survive the whole entire thing. It's always funny to see a tank with no fish because the little critters aren't scared of anything. They're out and about with no worries. With the wave makers pushing some sand every which way, I also started to see some hitchhikers that did not survive, like feather dusters and some worms. Week 3, and we see a very, very good sign. Very tiny copepods in the current swimming around and on the glass. I was over the moon to see that because when crashes like this happen, of course you lose your corals and the fish, but you also lose a lot of that foundation that brings a saltwater tank to life. The initial building blocks can get wiped away. So it was a great sight to see some of that life at the bottom of the food chain bouncing back in the tank without me doing anything to it yet. Just shy of week 4, I tested the water to see if I could add some initial fish and crustaceans to the tank. The water tested out great. No longer had ammonia or nitrites in it. Nitrates were between 5 and 10, and the pH was at 8.2. So I felt comfortable adding some critters to the tank. The calcium had dropped to about 360, 380, and the KH was at 10. So with no dosing, I was expecting to see that calcium fall off some from my usual 420 or higher. The initial life I added to the tank was a pair of firefish, 6 astrea snails, 4 scarlet hermits, and a bottle of tigger-pods. The firefish are hardy, very peaceful, great beginner fish to add. The snails are good for the hair algae, and so are the hermits too. and the ticker pods can be really good about getting into that detritus and cyano. This is most of the footage from my phone in February. You can really start to see some of that hair algae stacking up, but in March is where it just really exploded in the tank. Sadly, I could not even find a picture of when it was at its worst, but just imagine a full head of hair blowing in the wind, and that's what every rock in the back glass of my tank looked like. And in my experience, the cleanup crew does not care to really go after that longer hair algae. They want it nice and short to eat on. So March became the first water change and many during the month to try and combat all the algae that was growing. Even though I don't have the footage for March, you can enjoy this water change I'm doing in April, which still has some hair algae that's continuing to grow and grow in the tank. In March, I did a water change every weekend, around 15 to 25% water changes each week. And really, it wasn't even to combat the ammonia and nitrates from raising. The levels were okay. It was just the insane amounts of algae that was continuing to grow in the tank that's going to keep me from adding corals eventually. The water changes consisted of me using the siphon to try and tear off as much algae as I could with my hand and letting it get sucked out. I also siphoned the sand to try and break up the detritus and cyano to give the hermits a better chance at taking care of it. 1 week of water changes, I even ended up taking a razor blade and just lightly running it along the back of the tank to unlatch the hair algae that was growing, and then used a net to scoop as much of it out as I could. As it deals with filter media, I would put ChemiPure's polyfilter and some basic Marineland filter pads in the back compartments to float around and just continue keeping those water levels at bay, soaking in some of that mess that's in the tank. Something I always try to keep in mind and teach others is to just be patient during these times when you're trying to get the tank back the way it was. I'm not one to yank the rock out and scrub it in a bucket. I prefer to suck out as much as I can with a siphon and then let the cleanup crew deal with the rest. And it usually works out great. Just takes a bit of time for it to bounce back to its original look. It's not something you're going to take care of in one weekend. By the time April 1st came around, it had been about 9 weeks since the crash, and I was finally feeling like I had taken back control of my tank, and it was time to go up from there. Corals, more fish, really stocking it with what I envisioned it to be this go round. If you have additional questions on getting the tank back from the crash, definitely leave some comments down below. But to be honest, I tried to keep it as simple as possible and have as much patience as possible. Did my water changes weekly, tried sucking out as much algae as I could, would change out the filter media once I saw it had taken enough of a beating, and just enjoyed the show. The thing with hair algae, and just algae in general, is it can get to the point that your cleanup crew cannot handle it. So you have to get in there, clean it up some yourself, until they can handle it throughout the month to the point that it's not going to grow faster than they can eat it. Now, others might use chemicals or other practices to get the tank to bounce back quicker from a crash. If you do that, leave some comments down below for people to try. Maybe they're wanting to go down that path. For me, it was just patience and simplicity was my go-to. During the craziness of the crash and letting everyone know what happened, I actually had an old customer reach out to me that used to come to the fish store all the time when I worked there, and they offered to give me some corals for the tank and bring it back to life. And I am extremely grateful to them and all that they gave me. It was more than I could even ask for. From green star polyps, orange Yuma recordias, zoas, pallies, frog spawn, and more. They were put in around that 8th or 9th week, and they have been flourishing in the tank. I'm hoping to let the star polyps take over that back wall, and haven't fully decided where everything's permanent spot will be, but enjoy these shots of these beautiful corals from a friend. Thank you again. Now, what new critters did we get in the tank? So my idea, since losing my fish, is that I want to get fish that are peaceful. I want a full tank of peaceful fish. One downside to having a very large clownfish and a tang in the past is that they patrol the tank heavily, and it leaves you without getting some of the fish you want because they're too peaceful, and those two fish are going to be too big of a bully once they're in that tank for a while. So you saw the firefish, and if you checked out the documentary, those close-up shots are actually of this pair in the tank. It's a great peaceful fish to start off with. I have some other ideas of other peaceful critters I wanted, which were a goby and a pistol shrimp pair. I've always loved that symbiotic relationship between the two, and gobies are some of my favorites to have in a reef tank. And just so happened my local fish store had a Randall's goby with a tiger pistol shrimp. One of good size too, even bigger than the goby, which we thought was funny because the goby's the one that protects the shrimp. When acclimating them, they immediately paired up in the bucket, and my idea was to drop them in the tank on the left side in this larger cave by putting the bag over the hole and forcing them to this spot as soon as they jumped out. And it worked out flawlessly. I couldn't believe it. What I did not expect though is how fast the two paired up and got to working on the burrow in the cave. Within the next couple of hours, you could see the shrimp pushing sand out of the cave to create that first hole to defend and poke out of. The family loved watching them go to work. The next morning, we woke up and the shrimp had already made 4 additional burrows around this rock. I was not expecting them to do that much work. And then over the week, he had even ventured over to the side where the firefish were. They tend to like to be on that right side, which did scare me a little bit, but I didn't see any aggression going on. He was just doing his thing, digging his burrow, and then the firefish had their own burrow, and they kind of separated in that sense. So, some pros to having this goby and shrimp pair is that your sand will be sifted, no doubt. I currently have the Fiji pink sand, and he is keeping it very clean. They're super fun to watch. The relationship that they have going back and forth in the cave is a ton of fun. And the Randall's goby just in general, it's a white goby with bright orange stripes. And he has this super tall fan that he can raise up whenever trying to defend his territory that just looks outstanding. Some cons are that he will steal frags and bury corals that are on the sand bed. Now for me, it wasn't much of a problem because I glue my corals once I know where I want them, but he did steal one of my Zoa frags and I do not know where it went. I've looked everywhere in the sand, and my only guess is he brought it in deep into one of his caverns that I can't get my hand into. So hopefully I'll find it soon before it doesn't have enough light on it, but either way, he's just doing his thing, making his little cavern. So some people might find that super annoying, but honestly for me, it's just been awesome to watch the two go to work in the tank and have that symbiotic relationship in action. For me, I'm going to be building corals around this pair of fish, so if they're wanting to bury corals that are on the sand, well, I'm going to have to get some more rocks in there to put the corals a little higher, or glue them to the existing structure. After a few weeks of having them, you can now hear that pistol shrimp snapping its claw. I wasn't sure if I would actually hear it with them being so small, but it sounds like someone is snapping their fingers from the living room. I was impressed. The other critter we've added is the purple tuxedo urchin. Urchins are one of the few cleanup crews that I've had experience with eating hair algae no matter how long it is. They are absolute workhorses, and the tuxedos aren't too bad about knocking over corals as much as your pencil urchin is, but still, gluing corals will definitely help you avoid that headache. My local fish store hasn't gotten any turbo snails in, which is what I really want because they do great at tackling longer hair algae, but the urchin's definitely doing a great job. I'm still very much enjoying this tank. The all-in-one design makes me feel like it is super efficient and convenient to take care of to turn into a reef tank. I top off my tank manually, and I do notice that it evaporates water like there is no tomorrow. And it also seems to change which chamber is lower and which is higher when that evaporation occurs, so that's kind of goofy, but not an issue for me as I just top off my tanks manually every morning. I'd be curious how an auto top-off handles it though when the other side goes down instead of the one with the laser hook to it. Just something to look out for. Now I also do get a lot of comments about what my back compartments are going to entail. As of right now, there are 2 filters on the left and right side, so that's your just intake filters that bring it in and spit it right back out. I can say they're doing the job as expected. I have noticed some days when plugging them back in, like after doing a water change, one of them won't come on until I hit it. Can be annoying, but they're still just a very standard filter, nothing special. I'll replace them once they officially go out. Filter wise, I'm literally just dropping media in the back for it to float around. Poly filter, Chemi Pures, and some basic filter floss from Marineland, and that's really it. One thing I want to get is probably from one of them 3D printed websites that I'm just going to say is like an elevator, or maybe a staircase, we'll call it, where the two middle compartments can have different media stacked on top of each other. Me personally, I like to buy larger things of the media and then scoop it out and put it into mesh bags. And so if I had those kind of stairs that go up that middle chamber, I could put, carbon in one. I could put some kind of poly filter that takes care of phosphates. I could put, whatever I'm dealing with in the tank. I could put that on each level of the filter, right in the middle where most of that water flow's coming through heavy. The next thing is getting some sort of stand, maybe just made out of egg crate on one side, because I want to put some rubble rock, live rock back there, just for more filtration, more life to grow, and just overall health enhanced in the tank. There's only so much live rock actually in the display of the tank, so it would be nice to throw even more back there to do some additional filtering. I don't want to just dump it in there with no lift from the bottom, because I don't want to stop up a chamber that's sucking in water from that bottom. So I'm going to try to figure out what I can do to put some rubble rock in there. I also want to get a protein skimmer that's going to fit in the chamber and not hang on the back. Still doing some research there. I've seen plenty of people that sell some for those nano tanks that fits right in the back. So I'm trying to see which one I can get that actually can handle this 60 gallon and also not break the bank. And the last idea is some kind of basket, probably another 3D printed thing, preferably something that would be like acrylic that I could hang on the back of one of these chambers that could hold a handful of macroalgae. From what I can tell, the lights in the tank help hair algae grow in the back of the tank. So maybe macroalgae could grow there too without me having to put a light directly over it. So I do want to give that a go, even if it's just something as simple as Chaeto. That's a great filter to have back there. Plus it'll help me keep some tigger pods alive in case I ever want to get a mandarin eventually. I just don't want it flowing freely around in the tank or back in those chambers. So having a little basket would be really cool. So still thinking on it. As we post a video each month, hopefully I'm, tackling these different things so you can try to see what you should do with your all-in-one tank. And maybe soon we'll be even setting up the 11-gallon all-in-one that I have right beside it. And we'll end it there. I hope y'all enjoyed this check-in. Now that we got through that weather and we're on to summer, we can get back in the flow of doing these monthly. Let me know if you have any additional questions or opinions down in the comments. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. I love chatting with y'all. Y'all stay safe, be kind, and I'll see y'all later.